Alright guys, who broke the robot?
Hello everyone, I'm a broken robot. When the internet started to become more widespread in the late 90s, one common topic that has been a staple of internet culture since is debating and sharing music. From the old music rating websites of the late 90s to the modern ranking system that Spotify uses, music has been a staple of the internet as long as the internet has existed. One interesting side of this topic is how music genres have become far more diverse in the age of the internet, and some would say that it's to a point that most genres of music now have subgenres, and those genres also might have subgenres. One of my favorite types of music of all time is synth and electronic music. If you're a longtime viewer, you might have noticed that in most of my videos the background audio is electronic or lo-fi music, but easily one of the greatest genres of electronic music is none other than vaporwave. If you don't know what vaporwave is, well then here. I'm going to assume that about 90% of you at least recognize that tune or at least the background image, but we'll go more into depth. Vaporwave is a microgenre derived from the electronic scene which emerged in the early 2010s, and what you just heard is none other than Macintosh Plush, which is usually what gets people into the genre, and thanks to memes and general internet culture, it has been deemed the Vaporwave national anthem. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but the legendary Macintosh Plus is just Diana Ross's version of It's Your Move but slowed down and with pitch shifts. By editing the pop icon's voice, it added a murky smear, draining its flirtatious and amplifying its desperation. The song is appropriately druggy, but in a way that feels more out of a necessity to insulate, a dizziness nosedive into a painful euphoria. Don't get me wrong, I love vaporwave, but the unfortunate truth is that 90% of all vaporwave tracks made before 2014 are most likely just slowed versions of songs from the late 70s and 80s, with either static or random TV audio added. While vaporwave seemingly came out of nowhere in 2014, peaked in 2015, and disappeared by the end of 2016, I call BS. That's what Anthony Fantano or any other generic music critic will tell you. In fact, while researching this video, I learned that most people consider vaporwave so dead that it's become all but cliche to state that vaporwave is dead. Like most niche movements, vaporwave artists were often anonymous internet-savvy individuals working under a pseudonym or as part of an artist collective. This made it extremely difficult for these often niche artists who only made a few tracks to gain any notable following. The saddest part is that many vaporwave artists like 13th Century Cowboy and Acid Cloud, who some of you might remember, would later have their music copy-striked off the internet never to be seen again, despite all vaporwave music falling under the transformative guideline for most copyright laws. Vaporwave started as a variant of chillwave music and often were edited or samples of other pieces of music from the 80s and 90s, which enjoyed a bigger mainstream presence in the media and was pioneered by producers and artists such as Jams Ferrero and Ariel Pink, who both still make music to this day. The chillwave revival of happy retro pop culture encouraged disillusioned artists to counteract the pop movement by creating their own ironic take on chillwave. Thus, vaporwave's core style was born. They went on to build a strong audience on sites like Reddit, 4chan, and other image board websites. Despite a short-lived period of success in 2012, the microgenre, like many others, would gradually fizzle out by the end of 2016 as people moved on. But what is the visual style of vaporwave? On the album covers and background images of most vaporwave tracks, there is often imagery that can be associated with the late 90s early internet age, with old PCs and classic Windows desktop menus being a staple of most mainstream vaporwave imagery. One of the big early inspirations for the vaporwave visual aesthetic that you often see in these music videos draws direct inspiration from the Memphis Group, a name given to a group of postmodern designers and architects founded in Milan, Italy by the Ettore Sesota. In the early 1980s, this group spearheaded the design for the modern-day shopping center. The original group disbanded in 1988, but their influence still lives on to this day. But during the group's heyday in the 1980s and early 1990s, it was seen as a tacky product in its era, and its popularity faded by the mid-90s. Towards the turn of the millennia, it began to gain appreciation from designers, collectors, and many of those with nostalgia and fond memories towards the buildings and shopping centers of the 1980s. Besides neon-lit shopping malls and shopping centers from the late 80s, popular visuals utilized in vaporwave's aesthetic can include, but are not limited to, hand-drawn animated cartoons, classic sculptures such as Apollo and Lacan, but most importantly, all Vaporwave songs somehow give off an on-counter to consumerism, often displaying brands and logos such as Adidas, Pepsi Cola, Microsoft Windows, Macintosh Plus, PlayStation, Arizona Iced Tea, and Fiji Water, with wild filters and color edits to make it feel like it fit in a 90s shopping mall. Computer hardware and graphics from the 1980s are also very popular in most Vaporwave artwork, and edits as sadness and distress, often employed to emphasize the ironic soullessness of Vaporwave aesthetic in a sad but aesthetically pleasing kind of way. Kind of like how people felt trapped in the internet by the time the 2000s came around. Liminal spaces, while on a creepier level, the surreal and nostalgic feeling goes quite well with the aesthetic of Vaporwave. Altered reality that can include pictures with unnatural hues and tones can be seen throughout this aesthetic. Heavily edited pictures of the world around you can soon become unrecognizable and foreign, adding to the theme of unplaced nostalgia this music genre often instills within its viewers. There is an air of ambiguity on whether Vaporwave artists are either celebrating the rampant capitalism that birthed Vaporwave in the first place, or mocking it. Normies online will say that Vaporwave music sounds like something you'd hear in an elevator or a shopping center speakers, but that's literally what Vaporwave is going for. Vaporwave is supposed to fill you with a sense of nostalgia. The lower tones often used in tracks combined with synth creates a perfect sound environment for a feeling nostalgia to take place while not overpowering the listener. However, some critics of the genre claim that Vaporwave's tendency to rely on reoccurring motifs and visual cliches such as palm trees and statues, Greek columns, and VHS artifacts can be seen as formulaic and repetitive. Critics argue that this is a result of a lack of innovation and originality within the Vaporwave community, with many Vaporwave works appealing to a similar derivative. But in all honesty, I think that this criticism misses the entire point of the genre. Vaporwave was never meant to be a trailblazer of sound and revolutionize music. It exists to make you feel like you're walking through a neon-lit mall from the 80s, and while it can be said that Vaporwave as a standalone genre is no longer popular, it's because it went on to form numerous versions of music. This is just a portion of a wiki article on the music genres inspired by Vaporwave. VHS pop, corporate wave pop, dream punk, eco jams, fresh wave, game wave, utopian virtual, future punk, hard vapor, labor wave, signal wave. Hell, there's even a genre of Simpson-themed music videos called Simpson Wave that's literally just Vaporwave music edited over images of Bart Simpson crying. Oh. To put it bluntly, no, Vaporwave is not dead. That's a stupid thing to say. If anything, Vaporwave's sudden rise to popularity in the mid-2010s led to a musical diffusion that saw the core elements of Vaporwave like sampling edits, static, slower toned, and most importantly, synth, find itself in other genres of music, both indie and mainstream. So while some can say that Vaporwave is dead, in reality all it did was become part of other genres of music. Without Vaporwave, we wouldn't have genres like lo-fi, and we would miss out on an entire console generation of ambient background music that incorporates core elements from Vaporwave. If I had to give Vaporwave a definition, I would turn to the description of the subreddit r/Vaporwave. Global capitalism is nearly there. At the end of the world, there will only be liquid advertisement and materialistic desire, sublimated from our bodies, or unearthed senses will endlessly ride escalators through pristine artificial environments, more and less than human, drugged up and drugged down, catalyzed, consuming and consumed by relentlessly rich economy of sensory information, valued by the pixel. The virtual plasm welcomes you, and you will welcome it too. Kinda sounds like the description of listening to a Vaporwave song, doesn't it? But what do you guys think? Is Vaporwave really a dead genre of music, or is it style just found in other forms of music? And with that being said, if you've stuck around this long, I'd like to politely ask you to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, let me know, have you heard Macintosh Plus before, or am I just crazy? I hope you all have a great day, go out and listen to some Vaporwave, drink some water, and stay cool.